This podcast is sponsored by thevalleyGivesBack.org.
Yes, it is. And welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. My name is Eugene Driscoll. I'm a reporter, editor, whatever you want to call me, with valleyindy.org, a nonprofit online newspaper launched way back in 2009. Today, my guest is State Representative Nicole Klarides-Ditria, who represents Beacon Falls, parts of Derby, and Seymour in the Connecticut House of Representatives. Representative Klarides-Ditria, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Before we begin, though, I just want to read a quick message from this podcast sponsor, valleyGivesBack.org. That was my daughter at the beginning. While giving back is always in season, now is a great time to plan your gift. Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what mattered to you. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action will inspire others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about planned giving options. Plan now. Give later. Impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleyGivesBack.org. Okay, so this is the latest episode in a series of episodes where I've been just chatting up members of the Valley state delegation about what they're up to in Hartford. Past episodes have featured State Senator George Cabrera, and then I had on State Rep Cara Rochelle, and you can find them all at valleyindy.org under Navel Gazing. So before we get to like some of the bills that you have cooking up there in Hartford, I wanted to ask you about, and maybe it's old news at this point, but a few weeks back, I did a video interview with 7 Valley firefighters. I interviewed you for this story. The firefighters and you brought up police were frustrated at the fact that at the time they couldn't get COVID-19 vaccination information or scheduled for a vaccination because they weren't considered medical first responders. And like it also applied to police. So it was a strange thing. I didn't know it was happening until I was talking to the firefighters. The state never returned my emails about the matter, but now they're eligible. Like as that interview right before it came out, it sounds like the Seymour Police and Fire Department were able to upload their data and get scheduled. So sorry for that long intro, but what was the deal there? Like looking back, what happened, do you think?
Well, from the research that I did over the course, now it's been months, when they started giving the vaccines, they put EMS on the list to get their vaccines. And what the state was telling me was they were vaccinating EMS before fire and police if you had this R1 designation, which it's some designation that says that you're on the front line more than police and fire. Now, I understand in theory that they're trying to say EMS is with people more often or more frequent than police and fire, but in some towns they're not. Some towns you'll see fire and police. You just think about police every day, they're on the road. That's their job. They interact with people every day.
I was just thinking, like last night there was a call in Derby. First it came in as some type of assault and maybe the guy was intoxicated. And I'm just thinking, like, you're a police officer, you show up, you don't know, is the guy wearing a mask? Yeah, so point taken.
Or they should have been immediately after EMS. Like they shouldn't have been just waiting and not putting them on the list at all. So.
And what do you think? I mean, the other thing that was going on is some firefighters outside the Valley were able to get vaccinated. Some police officers within the Valley were able to get vaccinated while others were not. What do you think made that turn that seemed kind of sudden, or maybe it wasn't? Why were they finally able to get on the list?
Well, as I always do, I advocated for the fire and police, and I contacted DPH and I contacted the governor and told them that I thought they needed to be on that list. So through, magic, all of a sudden we found out that they were eligible.
Political magic.
A little political magic. They became eligible. But also too, and I'm sure you've heard, these vaccination sites, a lot of times people will not show up or will have extra vaccines. So our Valley health officials are basically just calling people that they know. And a lot of them were calling their fire and police to start to get them vaccinated. So that was a large part of it too. Naugatuck Valley Health did a great job in trying to get as many people vaccinated as possible and not wasting any vaccine.
That's great to hear. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse with that, but I just figured that we haven't really talked since I interviewed you about that very issue. And I'm glad it's been resolved.
Me too.
So, I mean, moving on to some of the bills, the state website has a great feature where you can go and look up every state lawmaker and see what bills they're introducing or co-sponsoring.
Yes.
And I guess the first thing I want to ask you about, and you had a press statement on this the other day, it's interesting. I'm just going to read the name of it, and then you can explain to me what it is and why you think it's important. It's called, at this point, it's called Senate Bill 919, an act concerning immunity from criminal prosecution for a minor who possesses alcohol when the minor seeks emergency assistance to prevent the death or serious injury of another person. So what's the story there?
The story behind that bill, as you may know, or some of the listeners may know or not know, I'm an athletic trainer at Laurelton Hall High School in Milford, and I've been there for 20 years. And every year, you know, I do end up talking politics with some of our student athletes that know I'm a state representative, and we always have a healthy conversation as to whatever they're talking about. But we have youth in government, YAG, at Laurelton, and the girls that are the student athletes that are on YAG come to me every year. I'm like, what are you talking about this year? You know, they go up to Hartford and they have they do youth in government up in the, in the chamber, and they sit in my seat and they take pictures, and we talk about what ideas they want to do, what concepts they want to introduce that year. So two of my student athletes, Claire and Juliana, came to me and said, have you ever heard of this Indiana, it's the Indiana whatever law, the immunity law. So it was basically the same law that 33 other states have enacted. And I said, that's a really great idea. Connecticut doesn't have anything like that. Do you mind if I try and enact it in the state of Connecticut? And this was last year when they were seniors in high school. I said, you can come up and testify and whatever. We know obviously COVID shut us down. So now here we are in 2021, and I introduced the bill, on their behalf.
And the bill is basically, if I'm say a scenario, I'm underage, I'm at a party, and I'm drinking, and my friend collapses from alcohol poisoning or what have you. This is to take away the fear that, if I call the police or ambulance, I'm going to get myself in trouble, right? I don't need to.
Friend, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Immunity, and it's only the first person that calls. So you can't be, every kid at a party and you're all getting immunity. It's the first person that calls. They have to, give their name, give where they are. They have to stay there when the police get there. So there's like 4 different, boxes to check to make sure that they, get that immunity.
And where does that bill stand at this point? Do you think it'll become law?
I hope so. Right now, it's in judiciary. So it had a public hearing and they voted it out of committee, I think last week. Or maybe they didn't vote it out yet, but it had a public hearing. So it's, I'm excited. I hope it gets, voted out of judiciary, and then we get to vote on it in the Senate and the House.
And one thing, and I'm totally switching around here, but I sat in over the last week or so. I don't cover the state, like I said, on a daily basis. I'm really covering local government. But I sat in on 2 public hearings over the past couple of weeks. I think one was 11 hours. The other wasn't. I think the other one was like 4 or 5. But I'm just wondering. Yeah. I guess what I'm learning for the state, that was nothing.
Yes.
But how do you, because you work full time, and then how do you be a state legislator working full time and check in on, and on a day you could have multiple public hearings that are going 11 to 12 hours. How does that work?
You figure it out. For example, yesterday I serve on public health and finance, revenue and bonding, and then regulation review. And yesterday I had a public health hearing and a finance hearing. So where I am with you on this computer, I had public health going, and then on my iPad, I had finance going, and then I had another small meeting going on my iPhone. So in the world of Zoom, for as good as it is, you can do 10,000 things at one time. I'm much busier now during our Zoom world than I was when we were in regular session.
And I guess if I was in your position, I would, I don't know, I would call into question whether I wanted to be an elected official. Do you get any burnout or anything like that at this point?
I think when you're going in the busy time, the really busy time you get at the end of session, that's when it gets crazy when we're in session every single day and we're up there until 12, 1, 2 in the morning. That's when you say, okay, well, I just got to get through these last 3 or 4 weeks and I'm okay. But, we take a lot of cat naps. A lot of power naps around here. So.
And speaking of cats, you do have, you are a cat person. You've got cats all over the place. We can see them in the background there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, moving on to a youth sports bill. And we're going to talk more about a bunch of your bills involve animal rights and things like that. But you've got a couple of youth sports bills that I see. A few weeks back, you testified about a bill involving youth sports, involving, I think it's emergency action plans. Is that what
yes,
EAPs?
Emergency action plans. Right now in the school day, all schools are required by law to have an EAP, an emergency action plan. So this just affords schools to have that same protection after school for our student athletes.
And what is it? Like, what's an emergency action plan?
It's a written document that tells everybody what their plan is in case of an emergency. So if you have an athlete that goes down on the field and you have to call 911, everybody has their place. Because think for an example, if you had someone that went down in the field and you have to have EMS come, if the gate's locked, if someone's not responsible for opening up a certain gate, that could be a matter of life and death for someone. So it just really plans out. It gives all your fields, who's the emergency contact person, the address of all the fields, what you're supposed to do if it's a medical emergency, if you call 911. And it's just a step-by-step plan that enables everybody in the sports team to know what they need to do.
And right now, there's really, it's sort of ad hoc. There's nothing formal in place.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, if you have an athletic trainer at your school, which all schools don't, 99% of the time you have an EAP because that's what we're trained to do. So we've all done them. And as far as mandating it and the cost, there's really no cost. It took me 2-3 hours to make my whole EAP. And then you email it to all your coaches and staff. And then if you choose to print out hard copies, that's the only cost.
And that's a question that comes up with every bill before the state legislature. What's the cost going to be? I've noticed that. So you're trying to be cost conscious there. There's another one, House Bill 6492 that coming from you. It's an act concerning education and training in how do you say that word?
Exertional.
There we go. Heat illness for coaches,
Just
parents.
say heat illness.
Heat illness. All right, good. Tell us about that one. Where did that come from? I know that's been... Go ahead.
So heat illness, as you know, I'm sure at some point in your life, you've worked out and you've had a cramp.
Yes.
No, never. But
yeah, so just
in theory,
it's been a while.
When you work out and you're working out hard and it's warmer weather, you can get a cramp. And that's the beginning part of heat illness. You get a cramp and then you can pass out, you can have difficulty breathing. And the Corey Stringer Institute up at UConn was named after Corey Stringer, who was a professional football player who died of heat illness because he wasn't tended to, and they didn't notice the signs and symptoms fast enough to save his life. Now, death from a heat emergency is 100% preventable. So no one needs to die ever in this situation. I think it was from 2008. That's Oscar. Sorry. 2008 to 2018. There were something like 20 college athletes that died of heat illness. And it didn't need to happen. They're senseless death. So it's the same thing. It gives you a plan. Coaches, they're certified by the CAAC now, their state permit. There'll be a module that they have one now, but they'll update it to the most current heat illness information. And then when parents have their Meet the Coaches night, the parents will get a 1-pager on the signs and symptoms of heat illness. They'll sign off and let them, tell us that they know what they're getting themselves into. And that's it. It's not a big mandate either.
It's safety. And I would imagine, it seems like we're hearing about this so much more. I mean, maybe it's just being reported more than it was, but it does seem like the incidents, at least anecdotally, are on the rise of kids pushing themselves and then collapsing in the heat, which it's just terrifying. So I would assume this is going to sail through.
Yeah, I would hope so. This one, I'm just looking at my notes, that came through public health, that was voted out of the committee, and now we're just waiting for it to go on to the floor of the House.
And is that sort of the barometer as to whether a bill is going to succeed? It's got to come out of committee, right? Is that where most of the things, if somebody, it just kind of dies in committee? Is that how it works in Hartford?
Exactly. So you propose the bill to whatever committee it needs to go to, and then it needs to get a public hearing first. So if it never, a lot of bills never even get public hearings. So once it does, then the committee has to, choose to vote it out of committee. So I think I've had a lot of support on both sides of the aisle on this one. And I think it came out of the committee. I think it came out of committee unanimously. So that's always a good sign.
Okay. The next question, I've been hearing about this a lot locally. It's not necessarily a bill that's pending right now, but it's about, unfunded mandates, right? That's a dirty word on the local level where the state's always throwing, stuff on our backs. This one's, it's from, I've heard it discussed by the Seymour Police Chief Sikowski, Derby Police Chief Narowski about the new police accountability bill. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of talk locally about the costs associated to install body cameras and dashboard cams, which is a provision of that new law, which I believe you voted against, right? Am I right there?
The original one, the one last year, the original bill. Yes, I did vote against.
And so they're saying, the way that there is, you can get money back. The town, I'm sure you know this better than me. The town pays some money up front for the equipment and the data and the storage and all that stuff. Derby is eligible to get 50% back, but that's only in year one. Seymour gets less. Yep. But I've heard some talk, and it came up at a Board of Aldermen meeting in Derby, sort of triggered a brief debate. Is there any talk of the state providing more money for like some of the equipment costs that are connected to that bill? Do you see that happening, or is that just?
In theory, yes, we'd always like the state to have more money, but there's only so much of a pool of money to draw from. And even the amount that they're saying, so you gave Derby as an example that said in year one, they get reimbursed 50%. That's what they're saying. But the history of the state, it's like we say one thing and then like, yes, sorry, we can't really give you 50%. So we're only going to give you 25%. So those are the things that we constantly complain about because it's that predictability. If you're saying A, B, and C, but then we get X, Y, and Z, people can't plan. So I think that's the difficult part is we don't want mandates. Sometimes you just need them. I mean, sometimes you have to have mandates, but everybody needs to know, how are we going to pay for whatever it is you want us to do this year? Because a lot of times they're throwing it back into the town. So I don't know. I would like to see them reimburse them more since it's a state mandate. But that was part of the process with this bill because it was pushed through so quickly. We would have liked to have seen them hit the pause button, take a little bit more time with it, and then really get it right the first time. Instead of now, we're going back and we're voting on different, amendments to fix certain things.
Delay thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very interesting. And I know this, I happen to watch a lot of Derby Police Commission meetings, and the chief there says basically that's, 24 hours a day. He's been trying to figure out, okay, what do I have to do with this new bill and what's it going to cost? Then moving on to some of the, you're an animal. Can I call you an animal advocate? I don't want to put a label on you.
Yes, I'm an advocate and lover. Animal advocate and an animal lover.
Because there's a lot on there. There's one called HB 5610, an act prohibiting the sale of animal fighting paraphernalia. Yeah, yes. What is that? I had no idea. I can't even imagine what that paraphernalia is, and how the heck can it be legal in the first place?
Which one is that? 5310?
Hold on, let me see. I had written it down. HB 5610.
56. I thought I wrote that. That was one of mine. I don't know, but it's whatever animal fighting rings use to promote animal fighting, which I just think it should be illegal anyway. I don't know the paraphernalia, but I mean, I guess they use chokers and prods and whatever they use to get these animals going when they fight. So that was just one of them. I'm the co-chair this year of the Animal Caucus. You probably saw that.
Oh, no, I wasn't aware. Tell me about that. I'm an ignoramus. Assume I know nothing.
Oh, stop it. Rep Michelle, who's the other co-chair, he's from Stamford. He had reached out to me and said, I'd like you to, any interest in being the co-chair of the Animal Caucus? I said, really? I said, I don't have time to do anything else. You want to be the co-chair of the Animal Caucus? I said, fine, because my love of animals, I'll do it. I think it's important. So, we have a caucus, about 15 members of the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle. And we just talk about different animal advocacy bills that we think are important that year. So this was one of, honestly, I think there were probably like 50 maybe that
Oh, wow.
like to choose from. And this is one of the ones that I personally liked.
Yeah. Are there any other animal issue bills that come? I mean, I just picked that one out, but is there any others you want
Yes.
to touch upon?
There was another one, HB 5569, was transportation of police dogs by ambulance. If the ambulance obviously isn't being used by a human, then you can transport that police dog to the vet hospital in an ambulance. That was one of them. The prohibiting the operation of Greyhound racing in Connecticut. So right now in Connecticut, we don't have any physical Greyhound tracks, any dog tracks, but there's a few more and more states are banning it. I think maybe New York still has it. Don't quote me on that, but it's just banning it from, if someone obviously wants to come in here and open up a dog racing track.
So it's a proactive prohibition on that, right?
Yes.
And then I thought there was one about that had something to do with pet stores in a given municipality.
Yes, there was. You've heard the words puppy mills, and
yes.
a lot of these pet stores use puppy mills to bring in their animals, and it's just another way, and it's making it permissive for each municipality, so they can choose if they want to prohibit these puppy mill stores from coming into your municipality.
And is that one that's going to see the light of day, do you think?
No, there's I don't know if that one goes back and forth every year. They've tried to propose that many times. I don't believe it's had a public, I don't think that one's had a public hearing yet.
Gotcha. And then I also wanted to ask
I have
you.
another one. Yep.
No, go ahead.
This one may see something. The review of the animal cruelty laws by the Connecticut Sentencing Committee. So as you know, when you're arrested for cruelty to an animal, the penalties are very low. And the amount of when they actually go to court, the judges a lot of times do let them go with minimal, if no jail time. So we just want them to review those, and because they haven't been updated in 50 years. So we think that's a good one to advocate for the animals.
And has that had a public hearing yet, that particular one?
Yes, that had a public hearing in Judiciary on March 12th.
And it still has to be voted out of that committee?
Yes.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you about one more subject, and then we can throw it back to you, because I'm sure there's a ton that I haven't asked you about. But the Route 34 project in Derby. I mean, I guess technically you don't cover like downtown Derby. You kind of stop at my backyard, basically.
Yeah,
the way
but I still cover. It's still my town. I'm not going to exclude a part of it.
Right. And I was just saying that just for a point of clarification. But the Route 34 project is one of those things. It's like, obviously I'm on social media a lot, like more than I want to be. And whenever I post something on the Valley Indy Facebook page about the Route 34 widening, people are immediately like, never going to happen. It's whatever. It's a bunch of malarkey. No one uses malarkey; they use worse than that. And then people point to the state, and you'll hear the locals go, "Well, we got to pressure our state people to do more." And I'm just wondering from what I hear, it is on track now to move forward. I don't have it in front of me, but I have it.
It is. It's done. We've had more traction with it this year than it ever has before. So it's all like it went the state part, the Naugatuck, the COG part. Everybody's doing their part, and we've been promised, and I'm sure Kara mentioned this to you too, that everything is on track to begin the project. So we'll hold their feet to the fire and make sure they do.
Yeah, what happens like behind the scenes? Like, who are you calling and yelling at?
We're always yelling at someone, whether it's DOT or just call, not that I would ever yell at Rick Dunn, but just calling him to find out, if there's something on his end that's being held up. That's the problem with these projects. There's so many hands in it, and you have to figure out who's doing what and what's holding up that portion of it. And it's a lot of legwork, but we figure it out.
It's like a needle in a haystack, I guess.
Yes, that's true sometimes.
And then every agency can point to another agency that seems to be not them.
But you have to hold them, but that's to your point, you have to hold them accountable. Say, what's holding your portion up? Because I want to move your portion forward. Tell me what it is. Send me an email so then I can get your portion going with the next person. So.
And then I guess in general now we're still in the midst of COVID, although it certainly feels like the vaccinations are here. I mean, if you're age 45 to 54 can start trying to schedule appointments. As of this recording, it'll be 8 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, March 19th. So that's good news. When do you see the state legislature returning to some type of normalcy? I know you're a member of the minority party in the General Assembly. You're a Republican. There's been some feeling that, hey, Governor Lamont, how long are you going to sort of rule by executive order? What's the latest you're hearing there?
We've been pushing the governor to open up the Capitol for a while now, because we want to be there in person. And because he's still ruling by executive order, we don't, have any say in it, unfortunately.
So
we want to be back in there. We want to be in the building. I mean, we're in there when we're in session days, but unless you're in leadership, you're voting from your office, and only a few people are allowed in the chamber at one time.
And then I usually, with the past state reps and state senator I had on, I would start off with this question, but you were sworn in this term January 6th, which I think it's safe to say is a day that's going to live in infamy. That's the day, people stormed the Capitol in Washington, D.C., just insanity. So I'm wondering, does it feel like there is the potential for more bipartisanship in Connecticut? I mean, because what happened January 6th in the federal level was just, if that didn't underline political polarity, I don't know what does. Right. So, and you're the only Republican in the Hartford representing the Valley. Everyone else is Democratic, even though the towns are the top elected officials in each town are Republican. So yes. Is that what happens there? How do you maneuver? Do you think it's more bipartisan than in the past?
I don't know if it's more bipartisan. You're always better working together, because you can get so much more accomplished than if you're fighting each other. And that's what I've always tried to do, is working with, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, even with all my bills. I can't do it by myself. I need the other side of the aisle, and working together and making compromises is how you get work done up in Hartford. May not be perfect, but if you can compromise it, and that's not too much of a compromise from you, then yes, we can get more things accomplished. And I'm hoping that will work that way this session.
And I think I noticed the other day, I saw it after the fact, unfortunately, so I didn't put it on my website and promote it in advance, but I think you did like a coffee hour again with the whole delegation, right? Or at least a couple of members?
We set one up, but unfortunately I was in 2 public hearings, and I was at my other job at Laurelton Hall. And I don't think George was able to make it either, but at least we made the attempt to do it. And I know Kara was there, obviously, and I believe Mary was there. So
okay, well, yeah, it was nice to see the whole delegation doing that.
Yeah.
But how about now? We're pretty much up at our 30-minute mark here. But I wanted to give you a chance to address. Is there anything that you're advocating on the state level that I haven't asked about, or is there anything you want to just get out to the public in general?
There's allowing another one. A bill that I proposed in public health was allowing medical assistants to administer vaccines. That was another bill that I proposed last year. Well, I think it's been proposed even before I was there. We're the one of only 2 states that don't allow medical assistants in a doctor's office to administer a vaccine. So I'm hoping that will make it onto the floor of the House this year.
What's the pushback against that bill?
It's coming mostly from the nursing population. And this is just my personal opinion. I think they feel that the medical assistants may be taking work away from them. I don't feel that's the case. And the doctors and the APRNs that most of them are supporting this, they just feel it'll free up the nurses to do the work that they need to do. Like, it's not as important. I think the nurses are concerned that maybe they're not educated. Medical assistants aren't educated enough to do it, but they have to understand that it's every doctor's decision. If they don't feel the medical assistant is proficient enough to do it, they won't let them do it. And the doctor's on the hook. And all they do is just literally give them the shot. I mean, we have people that do their own insulin. We have, emergency situations where people do all types of shots. I think to me, it's a no-brainer. So I hope it passes.
And again, I'm ignorant on the issue, but why is it needed? Is it tough to get vaccinations? Like
It's just because doctors are busy, and it's just doctors and nurses, APRNs, PAs, they're all busy doing other things. It just frees them up to do the not more important, but just other things. So it's one box they could check off their list of what they have to do. And a lot of the testimony that we had said it just makes the medical team work better together, and it makes it more efficient.
Okay. Are there any other bills? I don't want to dominate your time, but
another one, an act exempting personal income tax stipends paid to volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance. So that was
how would that work? What is that exactly?
Well, it makes it their stipends that volunteers get, the small amount they get from the town, it's tax exempt, so they won't pay taxes on it.
Okay, and where's that? What's the status of that? I would assume that's got a lot of support.
In public safety. It had a hearing on February 11th. Oops, sorry. My sister. Sorry.
Hey, is she running for governor or what?
I tell everybody that asks me that question every day, you'll know the second after I know. So
I don't believe that. Yep. All right, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. It was the public hearing was February 11th. I have, so we're just waiting on that one too.
Okay, great. Now, the last thing I'll ask is, how can people get in contact with you or your office if they have an issue?
They can email me, my email up in Hartford, or call me directly up there. My aide, Bobby Bergeron, gets all my phone calls and sends it immediately to me, and I'll call you back. If I don't call you back within a couple days, either I'm dead or there's no reason I didn't get it, because we respond to everybody. So if for some reason you don't get a response, send another email or make another phone call, because that means we didn't get it.
Gotcha. All right. I want to thank you so much for taking a half hour and going through all these issues. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Eugene. It was fun. And you got to meet two of my cats. There's another one here, Lenny, but he didn't come on film.
Yeah, for a second there, I thought the cat got wrestled control of your phone or something like that. They seem pretty advanced.
Yeah, they did. They're good like that. There was a little cat fight that broke out. I was hoping I didn't have to like run off screen to take care of that, but we're okay.
That would have been good. All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.